welcome to lecture 6. Today we will just continue what was left about the factors influencing the solubility of drug, and then we will continue with diffusion principles in biological system. So, first of all, the factors influencing the solubility of a drug. In last class we studied about the different factors, we studied about the factors like solute, nature of solute, its physicochemical properties which influences the solubility. Then we studied about the solvents and the environmental factors and the other factors which influence the solubility of drug. So, today we will just continue the last lecture which were some points were left. Now, first is influence of okay, I have to select the pen first. Okay. Now, so first of all, influence of complex session in multi component system, as we have already discussed when we study about the pharmaceutical formulation which consists of many ingredients. So, as large number of ingredients are used in formulation of a dosage form, then some of the ingredients increases the apparent solubility of the solute, and some of the ingredients decreases the solubility of the drug. So, we have both the examples, as we have already gone through this example, like iodine. Iodine is insoluble in water, but if we add iodine in presence of Ki, then what happens? This Ki is ionic in nature. It is a ionic, or you can say ionic compound. So, what it does? It induces dipole in the nonpolar iodine. It induces dipole in the nonpolar iodine, and the iodine is attracted towards potassium iodide, that is Ki, to form a complex Ki3, and in this way it enters into the water and it becomes soluble in water, because iodine as itself it is insoluble in water, but iodine forming a complex with Ki, that is Ki3, this complex is soluble in water. So, and on the other hand, the solubility of tetracycline is reduced when it forms a complex with calcium, Then comes the influence of particle size, shape and surface area of the solute. See, we know that when we decrease the particle size, we increase the surface area, and as the surface area is increased, solubility increases. But this particle size is a very critical one. Why it is critical? Because up to certain level only, if we decrease the particle size, then only the solubility increases, and if we go on decreasing beyond a certain limit, then what will happen? This particle size, if it is reduced beyond a certain limit, then there may be accumulation of charges in it, and in small particles the electrical charges are more prominent. So, what will happen? The solubility will again start decreasing. So, when we reduce the particle size, we have to consider the critical limit, okay? And then comes the physical form of drugs. Yes, the amorphous form of the drug has greater aqueous solubility compared to the crystalline form, and the hydrate forms have less solubility compared to the anhydrate form. And if the drug is present in a polymorphic form, then this polymorphic in the polymorphic form there are different types of different types of polymorphs are there, like stable polymorphs and metastable polymorphs. So, these metastable polymorphs have more solubility compared to the stable polymorph. And then apart from this, if the solvate is a organic compound, then its solubility is more compared to a hydrate solvent, if water is used as a solvent. And crystalline and amorphous we already discussed, and yes, if they are very close and they have a strong lattice structure, then they have low solubility. Then comes the molecular size. Larger is the molecular size of the solute, especially for solid solutes, and then the solubility is reduced. Why the solubility is reduced? Because the solvation of the solute by the solvent decreases. So, the solubility decreases. And other physico-chemical properties like melting point. Actually, melting point gives us an idea about the molecular cohesiveness. Molecular cohesiveness means how these molecular are attracted towards each other, like molecules. How these like molecules are attracted to each other. If they have a high melting point, that means they have a high cohesive energy. We have already discussed in the last class, if the cohesive energy among the like molecules is high, that means it will require more energy to break this attraction force between the like molecules. So, if the melting point is high, then the solubility will be less, and if the melting point is less, then the solubility will be high, because it denotes the molecular cohesive force. Then comes dielectric constant. See, dielectric constant, it is actually the value or a property of the solvent, and it is the capacity, or it tells us about the capacity or the ability of the ability of the solvent, that whether the solvent can induce dipole in the nonpolar solutes, or how efficiently the solvent is able to break the force of attraction between the two solutes, between the two solute molecules. And every solute has a dielectric requirement. Every solute has a dielectric requirement. Okay. Dielectric requirement. Okay. Now, this is the dielectric requirement is for solute. So, every solute has a dielectric requirement, and when this dielectric requirement of a solute is same as the dielectric constant of solvent, and what does the solvent have? It have dielectric constant. If this value matches, if the dielectric requirement of the solute is same as the dielectric constant of the solvent, then only that solute will dissolve in that given solvent. Okay. So, this is called as dielectric requirement. So, this completes your factors influencing solubility of drug. Now, we will study about the diffusion of drugs across the biological membrane. So, first to begin with, we should understand what is diffusion. So, diffusion we all know it is the movement of the molecules due to the Brownian motion, random thermal Brownian motion. Now, what happens? Suppose we have molecules here. Okay. So, as the molecules are there, the molecules are always in a constant Brownian motion, random Brownian motion. So, as they are in random Brownian motion, what they do when they vibrate, they just transfer or they just hit another molecule, they hit this another molecule. Okay. and as they hit the another molecule, they impart momentum in that molecule. As it impart momentum to that molecule, what does it cause? It causes the mass transfer of the molecules. So, what happens from a high concentration? So, how we can define now? We can define diffusion that from a high concentration of solute, there is a mass transfer to a region of low concentration. That is, the molecules moves from high concentration to a region of low concentration, Now, we can say that high concentration to low concentration can also be said as high concentration to low concentration, can be also said as along the concentration gradient, Concentration gradient means from high concentration to low concentration is called as concentration gradient. So, as it moves from high concentration to low concentration, so it does not need energy. So, there is no energy requirement. So, there is no energy requirement. So, we got the idea about diffusion. Now, we can see where this diffusion phenomenon is applicable in pharmacy. So, it is mainly applicable while we are studying the release of drug from doses form, especially in case of sustained release and controlled release doses form. Then in ultrafiltration, microfiltration, dialysis, hemodialysis, this diffusion phenomenon is used. In permeation, distribution of the drug in living tissues, then it is also used to estimate the molecular weight of polymers, and it is also used to estimate the absorption and elimination of the drug from the body. So, before going into the diffusion in details, we should just have a preliminary idea about how transportation occurs across the cell membrane. Transportation of solutes across your cell membrane or biological membrane. Okay. Now, when we discuss about the transportation, we will just discuss about three phenomena. We will not go in details about endocytosis and pinocytosis, phagocytosis. We are just concerned how it enters across the cell membrane, and we will just discuss on mainly three modes are used, that is your passive diffusion, facilitated diffusion, then is your active transport. So, when we discuss about active transport, what happens here? The solute transfer takes place from low concentration to high concentration. That means, this takes place against the concentration gradient, against the concentration gradient, and as it moves from high concentration to low concentration, that means what? That means it requires energy. So, it requires energy. Energy is required, and here they also require carriers to carry this solute across the membrane. So, carriers are required, energy is required, okay. Energy is required. I think you can't see here, I have to just write it down here, I think so. So, we can write for active transport, okay. Now, so for active transport, as we have already, okay, the spelling, means high concentration to low, then energy is required, then carriers are required, and mainly your pumps, this your sodium potassium pumps, the sodium potassium pumps, they follow this active transports. Then after active transport, we have facilitated transport. Facilitated transport. In case of facilitated transport, what happens? There are certain, you can say this is your cell membrane, okay, and here in the cell membrane certain spanning membrane transporters are there, okay. There are certain spanning membrane transporters are there, okay. And suppose this is your spanning membrane transporters. The solute molecule get attached to these transporters. These are known as facilitated transporters. These are known as facilitated transporters. They carry this solute and pass this solute across the membrane, and here it takes place, this transportation or facilitated diffusion takes place from high concentration to low concentration, and it does not require any energy. No energy is required, and in this case transporters are required to which your solute is attached. Then this transporter helps it to carry it to the other side of the membrane, and example is glucose transporters. Glucose transporters are used to transfer these solutes to the other side of the membrane. So, with this completes facilitated transport or facilitated diffusion. Then after this we will study about passive diffusion. Now, when we talk about passive diffusion, we have to consider certain points, and most importantly when we are discussing about passive transport or passive diffusion across the cell membrane. So, whenever we discuss the passive diffusion across the cell membrane, then partition coefficient of drugs or your solute plays a very important role. So, when we talk about passive diffusion, we have to consider the partition coefficient of drug. Basically, when we are dealing with a passive diffusion of drug across the membrane, then comes secondly it comes to your size or molecular weight of the drug or the solute, or you can say it as drug. Okay. Then third, the nature of the drug or solute. Now, how this nature? See, suppose you are having a hydrophobic drug. In case of hydrophobic drug, what it will happen? It will get diffused through the cell membrane, through the bilayered phospholipid membrane. Okay? It will cross through this membrane if the drug is lipid soluble. If the drug is lipid soluble, okay, then it can pass through the membrane, that is phospholipid membrane. In this phospholipid membrane, there are also some aqueous channel. If your drug is polar in nature, then it can pass through this aqueous channel. Okay. Your drug can pass through this aqueous channel. Okay. So, it depends on the nature of the drug. If it is lipid, it can cross the membrane. Then if it is polar, then it can go through aqueous channel. If they are small ions, then they move through the ion gated channels. Okay. So, when we discuss about ion gated channels, then what happened? There are 3 ion gated channels. One is your voltage ion gated. Here what happens? There is a voltage change, or there is a there is difference in the electron charges on both the sides of the membrane, and due to this the ions can move through the voltage ion gated channels. Then the second, there may be mechano gated ion channels. Third, there may be ligand bind ion channels. In case of mechano gated ion channels, here mechanical strength is used to open these ion channels. In case of ligand gated ion channels, what happens? There are certain ligands are ligands or whatever you call it, you can also call it as ligands. These ligands or these ligands which are present, they either may attach to the outer surface of the channel or they may attach to the inner surface of the channel, and after getting attached they open the channel, and then your solute, suppose this is your solute can move through this channel. So, this is your ligand bind channel. So, this is all about the transportation of drug by using different methods. Then after this we will study about then we will come to the next our next topic, that is your diffusion laws. What are the different laws which tells us about the diffusion? So, first we will study about Fick's first law of diffusion. So, what is Fick's first law of diffusion? So, to understand this we have to remember certain things, like we have to understood what does Fick's law states. Fick's law states that how much means how much amount, okay. Just remember how much amount of drug released in how much time through how much or through how much area, through how much area. So, this three muches you have to remember, how much amount of drug, at how much time, and at how much area, at how much area. Okay. So, we can say that this flux and this how much amount of drug which passes through this unit area in unit time is known as your flux, and that flux is denoted by J. Then this flux J is equal to your 1, here it is given your quantity of drug released at your unit time divided by your area, unit area, per unit area. And so, according to Fick's law we can say that this J is directly proportional to dC by dx, dC by dx. What is dC by dx? That is how much concentration of a drug is released with a function of position, change in with a function with change in position. Okay. So, what we can do, if we want to equate it, then we can write, in place of this we can write equal to minus d. Why this minus? Because it is moving from high concentration to low concentration. So, minus this is a proportionality constant d is equal to dC by dx. What is this dC by what is this d? This is called as diffusion coefficient in the region, and this A denotes your area available for diffusion, and the driving force is your concentration gradient. So, it is written as dC by dx. Now, this is your first law of diffusion. First law of diffusion is your applicable for steady diffusion. It is a steady diffusion because the amount of drug which is released, it remains constant with time, it does not change with time. The amount of drug release is constant with time. So, same amount of drug is released at the same at different time intervals. So, it is a steady state. Then comes your Fick's second law of diffusion. In Fick's second law of diffusion, here what happens, the change in concentration of the change in concentration with time in a particular region is related with, or it is proportional to change in concentration gradient at that point in the system. Means simply we can say that your dC by dt, that is change in concentration, is equal to your dJ by dx. dJ by dx means here what happens, the concentration changes with time with area. So, here what happens, in the first law we studied that it was a steady state and here it is a non-steady state. That means, it is a, that is the change in concentration is a function of time as well as it is a function of position, change in position. And if we see here, then if we see here, then this in place of JD we can write dC by dx also. That means, it is a second function of, or second this is a second differentiation. Okay. So, in the next class we will just continue with what happens if the membrane separates the two components, and we will just go through some of the examples which are related with the diffusion with concern to the different sites in a body. Like what happens in gastrointestinal absorption and percutaneous absorption, and then we will read about the pH partition hypothesis and buccal absorption, uterine diffusion. Okay. Thank you. We will continue it in the next class.